Hello Cootie Crew and welcome back to my channel. Today we're talking about septum piercings. I'm going to go over some of the piercing process, what that kind of is like, aftercare, and some general tips and information. If I get to the end of the video and you have some questions or there's something I didn't cover that you would like me to cover, please go ahead and leave that in the comments. Just a quick disclaimer before I start that I am not a piercing professional. So please keep that in mind as I share my own experiences and tips around piercings. Alrighty, let's dive right in. First, I'm going to talk about the actual piercing process. Now, I got my septum pierced, I think 3 years ago now. 4, 3? A few years ago. I have to say, this was the easiest piercing for me out of all of the piercings that I've gotten in terms of getting it pierced and the aftercare. This one was my easiest one. I'm sure that's not the case for everybody. When you go get it pierced, they use a clamp thing they shove in your nose as like a clamp. And then what they look for is something called the sweet spot. And from what I understand, this doesn't exist for everybody, but for most people it does. And what that sweet spot is this beautiful little place where they can pierce it that's skin but not cartilage, something like that. When I got it pierced, they did find the sweet spot and put a little clamp up there where that is. Anyway, so, you know, put the clamp there, that way it's evened out on your nose, and then they put the needle in one side and it comes out the other side. And I am not joking. I did not feel anything. It was bizarre. Like, I saw that the needle had gone through, but there was no, like, stinging, stabbing, normal piercing sensation. It was crazy. My hope for you is that if you go get it done, it is just as painless. Again, not everyone has that same sweet spot, so they pierce you with the needle, and then the jewelry that you've chosen goes on the end of that needle. That way they can pull it through with the needle so that your jewelry goes through that new pierced hole. As with all piercings, the best form of aftercare is sea salt soaks.
Sea salt soaks.
You don't want to use any sort of cleaning chemicals on it, like don't use soap or cleansers or anything like that. Sea salt only. Anything else could be too harsh and just irritate your piercing. And sea salt works to promote healing. It also helps to flush out any gunk in and around your piercing. For the septum piercing, it's pretty simple. You just get a small cup with warm water and sea salt. Look for a recipe online for the appropriate size of whatever you're going to be using, or you can make gallon size using a gallon of distilled water and sea salt, and then just pour it out and heat it up from there. Heat it up a little bit. You don't want it to be hot, but you do want it to be a little bit warm, and then dunk your face right in. Not your face, just the end of your nose, and soak it like that for 5-7 minutes at a time. The general healing time for the septum piercing is 2 to 3 months. It is my personal opinion to always expect it to be on the longer end of the healing period. That way you don't rush it at all. Don't mess with your piercing while it's healing. And then if you do have to touch it, make sure to wash your hands first. One downside I have to say of having my septum pierced is depending on what jewelry I have, it does collect boogers. For instance, I started with a curved barbell or a horseshoe ring in my septum. That way I could flip it up for work and hide it a little bit. But while it's up there, maybe I just make too many boogers. Because I feel like I mention this all the time and I don't hear too many other people talking about it. But anyway, so I would flip it up, and when I flip it back down, there could be like dried and crusty boogers on there and stuff like that. So that's kind of a less fun part about it. For jewelry, you can have in a clicker piercing, which is what I have right now, and those are just hinged. Seamless hoops, the curved barbell or the horseshoe rings. There's a ton of different jewelry options, which I think is super awesome. And it gets a front and center spot on your face. that's all of the quick general info I have for you about septum piercings. Again, if you have any further questions or want me to cover even more topics, please go ahead and leave that in the comments. This is a great learning space for everybody. So also, if you would like to share your own experience or some pro tips or feedback that you have about septum piercings, please go ahead and leave that in the comments because this is a great sharing space. If this was useful, please go ahead, give it a thumbs up, check out the other videos I have on my channel, and subscribe if you want to stay tuned for more. And I will catch you guys next time.